So in our processing environment, we have to set up a serial communication. So we have to be able to send and receive serial messages through the serial port and that's how we communicate with our Arduino. So let's import a library, and we will do serial IO, input output, and it'll say import processing serial. So that's the first thing we do. And then let's see, we're going to set up a serial object. So a variable, that's a serial, S-E-R-I-A-L, and I'm going to call Eno for my Arduino, okay? And then I have to set it up in setup. So let's make a setup, the OID setup. And while we're at it, let's make a draw. Okay. And let's go ahead and set up in setup, and I'm going to cheat here and see what to do. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so first of all, actually, the first thing we're going to look at is to see which port it's coming in on. Okay, so you can use this command here once you've imported the processing library, is a serial dot list. Okay, and we can print that. Oops. Okay, let's print that, and then we'll look at it and see what it does. So if I run this, it should print the list of all the serial objects. Oops, it says it doesn't like. Oh, right, I'm sorry. No, it should be okay. Well, let's see what happens. Right, okay, so it prints all the items. We have 0, it's an array of items, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to use the one that's TTY USB modem. Okay, that's what my little Pro Micro is showing up as. So that'll be number 5. So it'll be serial list square bracket 5. So let's keep this bit here, but just comment it out. Now that we know it's number 5, we can get rid of the square brackets too, because it's good to be able to print that list in case we need to see. Now we'll initialize it, our serial object, Eno, in setup. We'll say INO equals a new serial object. And I believe we just say the port this and the port name and and the baud rate. Okay, so we're going to establish the port name here. We're going to say string port name. Yeah, port name equals serial dot list and the brackets, and then we said it was number 5, right? Okay, so that's how we get our serial. So this is a string. This is a list of strings, an array of strings, and we get our actual port name from this list number 5. Okay, so we're going to create now, back to this, we're going to initialize our serial object, INO or Eno. Eno is going to be a new serial object. It's operating context, it's rendering context this, which is the whole sketch, and the port name. The port name, which is coming from this object there, that variable, and then the baud rate, 9600, and that has to match the code, the baud rate of the code we set up on our Arduino. We uploaded to Arduino. Okay, so that's good. So now with those things in place, our serial object is ready to go under the name Eno. All right, so let's move on here. Okay, now a good thing to do is let's just do this on mouse pressed. Oh no, we don't need to do that because we're pressing that button anyways. We'll just do it in draw. Let's create a size anyways in setup. We'll make it 500 by 500. And then we'll make a background. Make that black. Okay. Now, so a good thing to always do is to see if the serial is available. So you can run a function. Let's see, eno.available. So if ino.available. Okay. And then it's a function, so we have to give it the 2 parentheses. All right. So we can do a check to see if it's available, and only run code if it is available. Okay. And then we're going to read the string. So let's create a we'll create a global variable. We'll call it string. And SMSG, serial message, for serial message. Okay. And then we'll say in here, I don't know if I have to initialize it or not, but let's see what happens if I don't. I'll say SMSG equals eno. And I believe it's dot read string. All right. Dot read string with a capital S. Okay, eno dot read string. Okay, and then we can print it. All right, so this way, because it's a global variable, it allows us to use it anywhere in our sketch. So we'll go ahead and save that, and I'll run it. Integer to Boolean. Is greater than 0. Okay, so it's an integer. I didn't realize that was a Boolean. Greater than 0. So to see if it's available, you have to, I guess it'll give you a number 1 maybe. And so if eno is available, it's an integer greater than 0. Okay, so let's see what happens if I press. You can see what I'm doing. If I press, and there's PT1, PT0, PT1, PT0. Okay, now one of the things that's a bit annoying, or I can't really figure out with the processing communication, is the print line seems to do, oh, I guess it prints that line as well. So I wonder what happens if I just print. Because the line comes through. Oh yeah, okay, so if I don't print line, I guess I can do it on either side. I can not print line over here or not print line over here. But just be aware, it will become significant later, but just be aware that in Arduino code, this print line does send an extra hard return into our processing. It actually comes through. Okay, so that's great. That works nicely. Okay, great. So now, you know, the world's our oyster now. We can use these messages as they come in from our serial port and read them and do different things with them. Okay, so that's just getting data in right now, and we'll kind of leave that at that. I'll just show you maybe one thing, just a real one quick kind of thing. So for example, if you want to, oh, I do want to show you how to parse a message. That's right. Okay, so right. So let's do that. Let's parse that so we can have multiple buttons as well. We can have multiple things. That's why we added these headers. So let's learn how to manipulate that string so that we can figure out which header it has and what the value of that header, separate those things out. So that'll be the next thing we tackle here. Let's make an adjustment to the Arduino code. I've been playing around with some things. And what I'd like to do is get rid of the semicolon. I think we might be able to get away with not using that. So let's give that a try and see what happens. Okay. And we're going to then change this print. This used to be print 1. So basically if the button's pressed, it will print the header PT1 and it'll print the number 1. Okay. And change that to print line ln. And we'll do the same down here, which I guess is already done. PT1 and print ln 0. Okay, so let's do that. We'll save that and we'll re-upload that code up there. Now, it's not going to make that much difference this time, simply because, sorry, lost my train of thought, because we only have the one button. But when we hook up more than one button, then they'll make a bit of a difference. Though processing is kind of handling the returns a bit weird, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use the string manipulation to drill down and to parse out the different buttons. Okay, and like I said, this time we won't be so useful, but next time might be when we have more than one button. So we'll do that in the next video. All right. Right now, we're going to read the string, and then we're going to use this function called split. So I'm going to create a temporary variable here. I'm going to call it string. It's going to be an array of strings because split splits things at a delimiter, and it changes into an array of strings. Okay. And so we're going to call this MT1, and it's going to be equal to the split. And the message we're going to split is this SMSG. Okay, the first argument is what do you want to split? So this is just one long string, SMSG, and then it says, it asks for a delimiter. What delimiter do you want to split it out? Now I'm going to use single quotes, and I'm going to use this /R, and that simply means the return. Okay, so the return key, if it's a hard return, it's going to split it at that thing. All right, and then now I have an empty one, which is an array of strings. So let's just print MT1, and I'm just going to print and not introduce an extra line. Though again, it handles the hard returns a bit oddly. Okay, and then when I push the button there, you see it prints out BT1 and then BT0, BT1, and BT0. Okay. So then the next step is to, I don't know how that got there. The next step then is we're going to do another split, because right now it's printing out this BT1:0. So it's telling us that BT1 is going to be equal to 0 or 1, depending on if the button is pressed or not. So we're going to do another split to just separate out that header. Okay, so let's get rid of this print for now, and then I'll make another string, array of strings really, and I'm going to call it MT2, and I'm going to equal split. Okay, and actually, sorry, I forgot one step. We actually need to run, because there might be more than one. Let me think of that. Right, sorry. There's going to be a big, a whole bunch of these, right? If we have more than one button, so we actually have to run a for loop. Okay, so we're going to run a for loop, and then it's going to split the strings. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll run a for loop on this MT1. That's the step I forgot. So the first thing we have to do is we have to run through each item in MT1 through using a for loop for int I equals 0. I is less than MT1.length, and then I plus plus. Okay, and then within that for loop, we're going to go through each of those strings. So string MT2, this is just temp2, will equal split MT1 I. We're going to split each member of this MT1 coming through. So right now we only have the one button, so it's only one. All right, and then we're going to look at each side of it. So one side will be the header BT1, and the other will be the value. Okay, so let's just go ahead and print those out so you can see them. So print ln. I'll just print because for some reason it includes that hard return, which we're going to have to deal with at another time. So print, and it'll be, so now it's MT2 is equal to, it's being split by this colon. So the MT20 will be the header, BT1 or whatever it turns out to be. And then I'll put just a little space here, a little comma and space. And then the other side will be the value. Okay, so that'll be MT21. Okay, so MT, since this is splitting, making an array and splitting it by the colon. Oh, sorry, we need the colon in there as the delimiter. Oops. Okay, the delimiter is the colon. The left side will be BT1, and the right side will be 0. So it'll print out BT1 here, MT20, and MT21 should be the value 0. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Oops. I'll just get this so you can see it. Okay. And put that over there. So if that's active and I'm pushing BT1, oh. Okay. we're going to be forced to deal with this extra hard return right now. So it turns out that for whatever reason, at the end of the line here, when we've finished all the loop, it sends an extra hard return. I'm sure some of you can inform me better to why that is, but I'm just going to just do a workaround. So when this is coming in, the original string, it's coming in through the serial message, and then I'm splitting it empty one. I'm trying to, oops, what happened here? I'm trying to split it. There is an extra hard return at the end. So it becomes an array with the values in it. Each one will be like BT1 or something. If we have several buttons, it'll be BT1, BT2, etc., etc. But then the last member of the array is just empty because there's an extra hard return. And we're splitting at the return, right? So for some reason, because there's an extra one at the end, it leaves us an array with the last member being an empty member, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use a function called shorten. So we'll say empty1 equals shorten and itself empty1, okay? And that'll just lop off that last member of the array. And since we know that always going to be an extra hard return, we'll just get rid of that one. Okay, so that should solve our problems there. And then we no longer have to just print. We can print line as usual. Okay, and let's see if that helps things. So if I run that, and I just want to see where, to make sure I'm looking at, you're looking at the button the same way I am. Sorry. Yeah, it's moved. Okay. Okay, and then this is active. We press BT1 1, BT1 0. Okay, just like the way we printed it here. All right, that seems to work pretty good. So we have that now just the way we want it. It's either BT, it's just BT1. Now, the final thing we want to do then is to, do a test for the header. And I guess I probably should have tried to put two buttons in there just to make this more interesting, because really it seems like we're doing a lot of things for the one button, but you'll see in the next video when we add more than one button. Okay, so let's get rid of this print line in here. So if we got this far, we can look at either side of the equation and grab its value. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll use an if statement, and we'll say if. And now, when you're doing comparisons with string, there's a bit of a different kind of syntax. I'll show that to you now. All right. So if you want to see if a string, so we want to see if the string equals BT1 to check for the BT1 button. Okay. We can even put a little header here, and this is going to be BT1. Okay. So if we want to do a string comparison, it looks like this. If MT2 0, which is the header side, dot equals, and then the string that we want to compare to, BT1, if that is true. Okay, so if it equals BT1, that's how you say, is this string look like this string? Okay, then we will print line. We can print BMT2 1, which will just be the number. So now it comes through, it'll just print the number. Okay, so hopefully that works. Let's give it a go. And there it is. Okay. So again, a lot of business here just to sort through and then look for a header and then just grab that header. Okay. So if we want to, for example, make that a global variable, we can say BT1 int, BT1 val. Let's just have it a default 0 for now. And then we'll just make this BT1v equals MT2 in the first the 1th, the first part of that array. And now we do have to convert it because it's still a string, right? So I'm going to just go int like that if we want to use it as an integer, okay? Because even though it's 1 and 0, it's still a string, okay? So I'm going to convert that to an integer. Okay, now we can use it. So for example, maybe we can just do something in the background, okay? If bt1v equals to 0, or actually, you know what we can do is we don't even have to do that. We can just bt1v. I don't know if it lets me use variables in the background in the new version of processing, but we'll try. Okay. Oh, it'll be 1 or 0, so it won't change much. Sorry. We will use if. Sorry. So we'll see background 0. We'll say if bt1v equals 1 equals 0, then background 0. If bt1v equals 1, background 255. Okay. So now we hook our thing up and it's turning white and black. Okay, so there you go. You got a nice toggle switch that you can use however you want, and we'll have some implementations a little bit down the road. But that's just a basic idea, is that what we're doing is we're grabbing from Arduino these physical inputs, and then we're adding a little bit of data to them, a little header, okay? And we went through all this, whether we print or print line, and we add the values. And then it's coming through the serial, reading it through the serial port, and then it's just parsing those. It's using the string operations within processing to parse through those strings to do some splits and stuff, and finally get us down to here. So basically, we're seeing if the Arduino is available. We're making that a string, so we're going to read the message that comes through that's being sent to the serial port here, the serial print. And then we're going to create an array here that splits that by the return. So every new print line, every time we go print line, will be a new entry into this array, mt1. All right. And then there's this weird thing where processing is also sending. Normally, so you notice with the colon here, it took it away. So we only have mt2 0 is just the bt1 without the colon, and mt2 1 is just the value without the colon. It's just the 1 or the 0. But for some reason, it passes this hard return through, or somehow adds an extra hard return at the end. So we're shortening that. That's just a little hack. We're shortening that so that we don't get that blank space and it'll throw an error. Now this then reads through this mt1, reads every item in that, and it splits those down as well. So it just splits apart the header away, the header bt1 away from the value. So then we can compare the headers. Okay, so it splits that away. The header ends up in mt2 0, and the value ends up in mt2 1. All right, and so then we can, at this point, and so there'll be a lot of code right in here, right in this for loop in here. There'll be loads of one for every sensor button or whatever you do. Okay, so this is the one for bt1. So we're going to see if the header mt2 0 is equal to this string bt1. And you see that we have to use a bit of odd syntax to compare strings to each other. And then in this case, and this is where the action takes place. So in this case, I'm just changing this variable to whatever the value is of bt1. It's always going to be 1 or 0. And then I just use it in various things. You can use it in anything you want, but then, here I just used it to change the background to black to white. Okay. All right, great. Good luck with that. Hope that works for you. The next video, we're going to look at making multiple buttons, and we're going to change this code quite a bit so that we can make, we can just sort of assign as many buttons by changing one number.